Hello, this is John Speelman with my video version of my latest column 208. Actually, I've just done this and I had 3 interruptions with parcels and things. It's the Saturday before this comes out. And then I had a phone call and I ended up at some stage, rather than recording, I paused it. So I lost the end of it. So I thought, okay, let's do this again. It's such a mess. So this is take 2, and this column is called Light and Dark, and it's about attacks on light squares and dark squares. So what I started doing, let me just check, we really have got this bloody thing recording now, haven't we? I believe we have got this thing recording, and we are... I started by talking about what the preconditions for an attack and saying you need normally as many pieces as the defenders, though you may not, the defenders may get in each other's way. And you also need clear targets. So if you have a scattergun approach, then it may just not work really. And that's bad luck. You need to aim at specific targets, normally one square, but sometimes squares of the same colour, a colour complex. And if you do that, you have much more chances of success. And I use some metaphor like singing from the same deadly hymn sheet, I think. So what I've got this week, I've got some of the people I teach. One of the wonderful things is they often tell me things, have you seen this game? It's lovely. People send me messages, look at this lovely game. I get to see it in real time or afterwards. And Emmanuel Voyakis, who is a law professor at the LSE, London School of Economics, pointed me in the direction of a magnificent attacking game, which was played in Hammersmith. There were some norm tournaments in parallel with the London Classic, and I was pointed in the direction of this wonderful game. And so I've given it to you. Then also somebody else, Stephen Nelson Smith, suggested a dart square game. It's not a violent game at all, but it's a nice game by Karpov. And I stuck it in. I thought it's nice. It's not a game I've seen. But I've got 2 much more ultra-violent dart square games. A very famous game, Zukertort against Blackburn. And one of my own games against Yassar, which I thought I'd used in this column before. But I know I used it. There's an Indian website which I did a couple of lectures for, and I used it for that. And the game was slightly snazzed up. I hadn't realised I'd done that till I started annotating, and I found questions in it, and then I remembered. And this game maybe I haven't used here before. It's a big dark square attack game as well. So let's start. We're going to start where here is my database. I'm using ChessBase 17, by the way, now. I was using 15 for a long time, and I liked it, but 17 does have some advantages. One nice thing about it is that if you copy a web page, well, it's just said to me, interesting opening theory, ChessBase 17 as well, which is kind of it, though possibly not what I need at this moment. And if you copy a game on a web page and turn to ChessBase 17, it'll already be in there. Previously, you had to go Control-N for new game and then Control-V to paste the game into the new game. It's not a big deal, but it's still quite nice that it's sitting there waiting for you. Anyway, here we go. This is the first game. Is a young Polish guy, Szymon Gumilarz, very dangerous attacking player. I hadn't really heard of him before, but he is a dangerous man. He's 21 now, I think. So they always used to go e takes d4, but now they go e4, and a3 is quite a logical move, so that black doesn't have the pin bishop b4 after knight c3. They play some moves, and now f3 is interesting. You can take on c4 now if you want to. It's certainly possible, and I think I might want to do it, but I'm not sure. Looking at it, it's probably not nearly as good as I'd hope it would be. for black. Anyway, they did these moves and h6. h6, because I've annotated this already now properly. h6 stops bishop g5 or possibly knight g5, harassing a bishop on e6, but it does weaken the g6 square, which is going to matter later. Takes, queen, knight h4 first, go to f5, knight c6, now the move queen d3. And apparently David Navarra played knight f5 against Nikita Vichugov in a game in Prague 3 years ago. Queen d3 is a novelty, and there is the question, had your man prepared this novelty in advance, and had he seen the attack? And one hopes not. It would be nice if it was all his own thing, but you know that preparation is such nowadays. Queen d3 is the second line. Okay, so queen d3, and black should go bishop e6, but he goes rook e8. And here, at the moment, Stockfish is not seeing bishop takes h6, which is the move that was played, which is a magnificent attack move. Now it has taken about 5 seconds to see this move. Lovely move, ripping some of the cover off black's pawn cover away from black's king. Black can play knight e4 actually, and it's not too bad at all, but you would need tremendous self-control to do it. I mean, you can do knight e4, bishop e3, takes, and okay, white is better, clearly. White's won a pawn for the moment, and it's quite pleasant. Queen e7, bishop c1, not taking on e2 because of rook e1. Bishop g4, though, it says it's claiming it's not too bad. Or knight a5 or something. I mean, you've got some compensation. But it's, you know, not a great position. And you can see that bishop h6, you'd be tempted to refute this, wouldn't you, or to fight it out. He did. Now the point, bishop takes d5, threatens queen g6 check. If knight takes d5, rook takes f7 is the idea. You've bashed your way through. You have to take it because there are several mates. Here when I was first looking at this, I flashed out the move queen g6 check and knight takes d5, assuming this would win, but it doesn't. And actually white has a much, much better route. If you can't see the notation, or if you can keep your eyes off it, you can look for white's best move here, which is queen h7 check. King f6 and king f8 get mated in one move, and after this, here, this is checkmate. Bad luck for black. So you really can't take a rook f7. I'm going to show you very quickly what I analysed, because it's very interesting as well. I assumed knight takes knight would win. Knight takes knight and rook f1 check. But you play knight takes d4, check, and then you play bishop f5. You are, after all, at this stage, a rook and a piece up. Knight takes f5, knight e2 check. If king f2, you play bishop c5 check. Doesn't really work. I checked it earlier, and if you do this, queen to here, knight e3 takes, bishop g5, and the engine gives this as winning. It's clearly good for black. Winning is okay. I'll believe it. If you got the h6 pawn, could you have, going back, could we have played king f8? Probably not, because then you can go queen h6 check, queen h6 check, king g8, queen g6 check, king h8, I guess, will probably be okay. So anyway, you should play, and if knight takes knight, takes check here, rook takes, doesn't work either. Rook takes, queen takes check, bishop f6 takes. You're running out of pieces at this stage, obviously. I don't know, is queen h7 still an idea? Queen h7 still fight. Presumably you could play bishop g7 then, and it's all falling apart, really. So takes, check here, king h3, queen e6, and it's black who wins. Also, I think king g1, queen e6 as well, actually. Yeah, we can do that. King G1, Queen E6 as well. So you don't do that. You actually come down here. You actually play... yeah, okay, Queen H7 is better. Sorry. Queen G6 check. You play Rook F1 check. Now you've got to play Knight F6, of course. And then you play the lovely move E3. The problem is if you go Queen H7, then black can defend with Queen D4 check and Knight E5. But after E3, if Knight takes D4, you just go Queen H7 and they resign. Because the end of the game has occurred. So they try Bishop E6, Queen to there, Bishop to there, check here, and now D5, cutting the king's escape. And at this stage you are only a rook and 2 pieces down at this stage. There is a threat of knight to E4 to G5, mate. Quite a big threat, really. And it turns out, apparently, Bishop F8 is probably the best move. I've given some other lines here as well. Take the knight, and it seems it's best to take back. Check here, takes, knight F5. And, of course, white's better. White is 3 pawns up and has a plan of sort of, I don't know, attacking the black pieces and of pushing the kingside pawns. And, I mean, the engine says that's winning, and I'm sure it's quite true. But, you know, still a little bit of work to be done, perhaps. Anyway, Queen H7 obviates the need to analyse any of this crap, in fact. So, he went King G7 to unpin, and now just Rook F4. One thing about attacking is that when you're playing attacking chess, you must just carry on playing chess. You can't think, because I'm attacking, I've got to play crazy moves. Often you just have to develop your lumps, which is what he does here. We're playing to double rooks. Rook F8 played Rook G8 is interesting, actually. Well, first if Bishop D6, Rook F2, Rook F8. I think Bishop H3 tends to allow bad things to happen. I'm not quite sure what. Can you go Bishop H3 here? Is there some knight E8 hit or something? Bishop H3, can we now go Bishop F7 maybe? We can, yeah. And this is a catastrophe total, is it? It looks pretty catastrophic, doesn't it? King takes, check, here, check, here. Is that checkmate? Could be checkmate on a good day. Seems to be. So you have to go Rook F8, Rook doubles, Bishop B7, and you just play Rook F4 again, and you've got the same position. With both sides losing 2 tempi, that's one thing. And also there's the line Rook G8, Rook to there, King F8. Apparently, I guess Bishop F7 was that teeing up. And now you go Bishop C4. I mean, the engine told me Bishop C. I assumed it was going to be Bishop A2, but it's actually Bishop C4. Very hard to see why at this moment. The point is that after Rook to there, Knight to there, Queen takes pawn, Queen takes Queen, Knight takes Queen, Knight takes Knight. In this position, the Bishop protects E2, and White wins. If the Bishop was an A2, then Black would have Knight E2 check, and it would be Black who was in the ascendant. So, quite difficult that actually. I mean, okay, White's a pawn up with the big initiative here, and presumably should win, but. So Bishop C4 quite difficult. I'm sorry, I'm going up and up, just trying to get to my main lines. Queen D6 played. By the way, couldn't play Knight takes Bishop, of course, because of Rook F7 check. But now you are threatening Knight takes Bishop, so he retreats and he just goes here, as you'd expect rather than C4. And this also. He's now actually going Knight D8 to overprotect F7, Bishop there, and suddenly he's changed diagonals. He's threatened to go Rook takes Knight and Queen H7 mate. I do adore this game. Rook to there, and now the lovely move Knight G6. exploiting the white squares, and threatened knight takes bishop as well as knight a. Well, knight h8 as well. Guy played bishop h3, perhaps knight e6 is a bit better. Take. It says queen a6 this engine, but you just go here. And basically you should be winning. I mean, it's not. Right, so bishop h3, maybe slightly worse. Take. Still can't take the knight, of course, because of rook takes f6. Goes here. Now, you could play knight takes f7, when the only sensible thing to do, I think, would be to play queen d4 check, because king takes, queen g6. Oh, is there bishop queen g6 check, king e6 maybe? No, there isn't, because the bishop f5 mate. So if takes, you have to play queen d4. If you go here, check, king f8. So if king e6, bishop f5 is actually mate. Bishop f5 is checkmate, isn't it? New variation. Seems to be. Excuse me, sorry, here. That is checkmate. And after king f8, you just go bishop a2 again. And that is absolutely devastating, because you're threatening mate on both g8 and f7. And you're starting to play moves like queen d4 and queen g1, apparently, which are really not very cheery, are they? So that's over. So you have to go queen d4 check, take here, and of course white's winning. But he played knight g6, which is a more thematic. He's pivoting on g6. He's actually preventing take capture on d4 because of knight d4, knight e7, or queen d4, knight d4, knight e7. So the guy went bishop d8 to get his bishop off, and now knight b5 protects the d pawn with tempo. I guess, I don't know if e3, if you could have tried to take the knight. This is better anyway. And now knight to there. So now you're a pawn up with the white squares and with the enormous square and f5 for the horse. So basically you're winning at this point. Ace, bishop b6, check here. I assume king g8. Well, first you could take an h6, but you can go queen d2 presumably. It's going to cause a major incident. I mean, it must be the end of the game. So he went here, queen d2. He feints in the dark squares for a minute. a6. There's nothing better here. There are no good moves at this stage. Queen to here, f6. And now another lovely move, bishop a2. Bishop's done its work on both diagonals. Now it goes back for the final blows. Queen h7. Knight c3, no need even to go to d6. Why would you bother? Just go back. Go to play e3 and knight d5 or knight e4 or something and just win. Guy tries knight e7 takes, bishop d4 check. e3 exclam, a tiny deflection. Now bishop takes knight, there would be knight g6 check, wouldn't there? So he goes king h1, knight takes e7, take here, and here the engine on one of the websites complains about this move because apparently queen h5 gives mate quicker. I have to say that, since given this is about plus 6 is all it is after queen f7. Anyway, he resigned, obviously. He's losing queen takes, rook takes, king takes, queen f3 check. And he loses the bishop as well. I suppose I can do that. Bishop checks, queen takes. Wait a minute. I have to go take back, don't I? Sorry, so bishop h, bishop here, check, queen takes, rook takes, king takes, queen to there, check. And obviously everything else wins. So very nice game. That's the first game I'm going to show you. Then I've got this Zukertort game against Joseph Henry Blackburn. Very famous game, Dart Square game. They played a long match at some point, didn't they? Blackburn, I think, was the only person to have beaten a world champion. Did he beat Lasker or something at one point? Before Penrose beat Tal in 1961. And that was 1898 or 9 or something, I believe. Interesting way he's playing. Yeah, he now starts playing on the c-file. Thought he'd have sufficient defence here. Reasonable. If White didn't have white square bishops on the board, probably Black would be doing very well. But he does. And here he played f5, which I guess is a mistake, is it? I'm going to ask its Sublime Majesty. What should you do here? What should you do, O Sublime Majesty? Bishop c6, it says. a5. a5 it gives, which is a reasonable move. Thinking about trying to play bishop a6 later. Anyway, he played f5, which is dubious, really. I mean, it has an idea, but the idea fails to have rather beautifully. Shaping up for a fight. Fight, but he loses it. Takes, f5, knight e4, takes. If he doesn't recapture, he's going to be blown basically to smithereens, I think. If he does recapture, he's blown to smithereens. Rook c2, hg6, rook g3, queen g7, presumably d5, e5. I mean, this is disgusting. e5, queen g5. So he has to go rook c2, as intended. Pawn takes pawn with check. King h8, king takes pawn, there'll be rook h3 check. d5 check here. And now the famous move, queen b4. Beautiful deflection. And now if queen takes queen, so if queen takes queen, check here, check here, check here, and at some point check. You could be an h7 and rook f7 and the same thing would happen. And White gets what Julian Hodgson calls a lawnmower mate. The two rooks, the two rotors of the lawnmower, creating a lawnmower mate. He tried rook to there, and now the excellent move, which is quite easy to miss. I mean, presumably bishop a1 would be very strong, though the game would continue. He played rook f8 check. Excellent move. If you take it, then bishop b5 check and queen e4 check soon leads to mate. So queen takes, bishop takes, bishop takes, king takes, queen e4, and God knows it's going to be mate soon enough, isn't it? So queen takes that check, king to there. Now, he could just go back, but he found a very pretty win. Bishop takes pawn check, king to there. And now the coup de grace. If you haven't seen this game before, then have a little look, see the best way to play. It is check. Queen takes bishop, rook, queen e8 mate, so you play king to there, queen takes queen, resigns. Very nice game. Right, that's that. Then we've got this game that this guy Stephen showed me, which I hadn't really seen. I didn't remember. It's just a nice dark square game. It's nothing to do with attacking, just to do with power on dark square complexes. I think this is not a good idea. c5 says somebody like either Anand or Fatachnik or somebody. This dark square weakness, possibly c5, b4 is better, but it's all very unpleasant already. Karpov doesn't mess around, he just plays queen to there. You wouldn't contemplate playing queen b3, would you? Because you'd get your head kicked in. So yeah, I mean, huge attack. Also queen c5 maybe. I mean, you know, you'd have to be incredibly brave to do that. Queen c5, pawn to there, knight to there. f6, apparently king d7 was slightly better. Take, bishop b4. Karpov just takes aim at the a pawn. He was so calm, so preternaturally calm. f3, good move, no hurry to double rooks. Does something about giving the king a square. Sorry. Proves the king. b4, just a nasty position for white. I mean, it doesn't have to be completely lost, but it was soon. And that's a mistake. I mean, he's much, much worse anyway. And with the rook trapped, Judith resigned. So, I mean, pretty impressive game, actually. I mean, you think, playing a very, very strong opponent, she's got totally blown away positionally through the dark square attack. So it is a nice game. But, okay, and we'll go back on more on topic now with absolute ultra-violence on Against the King. So this is the... I played a candidates. I used to normally lose to Yasser. I had quite a minus score, probably, apart from this match. And especially at Blitz, where he was wondrous. There were very few people in the world that could outplay me in the endgame at Blitz, and he was one of them, certainly. I think Alexei Drev is one who I've had trouble with sometimes as well. And, right, anyway, we played a candidates match. He was the favourite, but I was good in time trouble. I was young, and I had a lot of energy in time trouble. And we got to the fifth game. He had to win it to stay in the match, because I'd swindled him twice already. And so he had to win this game, and that's why he played f5 here. And we played these moves. That threatens positionally to play bishop a3. It's not a huge threat. So I just thought I'd develop my pieces. And now I played f4. I mean, I decided, you know, I'm going to make it as difficult as possible for you to attack me. And he, again, in the spirit of causing trouble, did this. Can you go d takes? I played g4, would I? Okay, I didn't know that. Queen d2, and I must have some advantage, presumably. I mean, you can try to break it open with c5, but my pieces are going to be really good. So he does that, and eventually I go c5, and I do b4 and a4. There is an ulterior motive to this, which is now I can play rook a3, which is very nice. At some point, he can try to play a5, b5, bishop takes e5, because if d takes, then there'll be queen c5 check. He never does that, which is a bit... Perhaps he should. He goes back. I play bishop c3. I think that's possibly against a5, saying if you do it, I'll take it, and I'll have an extra pawn as well over there. Bishop g6. Yeah, I don't know. Now I do play g4 to control the white squares, and he plays a really very... He plays very positionally as well. He's fighting for the white squares. Would you play g takes h5? Would that be a good idea? Well, the answer is no, because after bishop h7 he has the f5 square for his horse and he's better. And I would look like a total blithering idiot. And I wouldn't play that in this lifetime or the next. I play f5, of course. Because now, if pawn takes g4, I have f6. That's the point, really. Pawn takes g4, you have this move, after which you're going to be winning, clearly. I assume you're going to be winning. Can't imagine that black can possibly survive that. Let me ask its majesty, just how bad does it think that is? Maybe about +7 or something. Yeah, okay. So e takes, so now he hasn't got the f5 square. And he played e3. F4 is interesting, pawn takes e3 or g3. It doesn't really work. I mean, my pieces aren't bad at all. e3, queen d3, and it's crap, basically. Everybody knows it's nonsense. But, I mean, you could fight, and you could hope to fight. But it's lost. So, I'll show you first the game, and then which wasn't so difficult. His idea was to do this, so he could now go bishop e4. I didn't take that one, I went e6, blasting my diagonal open. The bishop, which was sitting there looking a bit stupid a few moves ago, is a monster. Yeah, it's now becomes a monster, actually. Becomes a monster. It's better, isn't it? And yeah, basically rook f6 also is very, very likely as winning, but this is the move. I think I'd analysed probably a long way at this point. I mean, I could analyse at that point. Queen to there, rook to there, check. Here, take, queen. Queen f6, exclam, and he's paralysed. He can't play rook f8 because of queen g5 check. So my beautiful, beautiful pieces are killing him. So he tried this, bishop e5 here, check here, here. And now I'm going to, at the very worst, win his rook, play bishop g4, room my king up, and then work out how to win with my passed pawns. It's not going to be a big deal. So he resigned. So that was quite a thematic game. Now the other thing is I want to show you the other variation, which is when he goes king h8. Goes bishop h. No, when he goes bishop h7, rook g3, king h8. So now it's time, and I play e6, of course. Of course, he must block the diagonal, and I would not consider ever, ever, ever taking that rook with my bishop. I'd consider it an absolute disgrace. What I do is I play rook to there to smash the diagonal open. And if he goes, first if he goes rook af8, queen h6, I don't suppose he can play knight. The knight e8, rook f5, of course. Yeah, just rook f5, and that's the end of that. Splat. Everybody is aimed at f6, and that is the end of the game. Can he go something like d4, rook bishop takes pawn, queen d8, bishop c3? He doesn't even have a check, does he? I mean, you just can't do these things. Not when I've got two bishops defending my king. So, so he takes this way. I go check, here, here. Now he can't take with the queen, because then I go check here, takes. Don't have to. Could also go queen up checks, actually. But I think I'd just take and check and take a rook. And he's got no chance. I mean, you know. He can go something like check and queen e3 or something, but we all know that I'm going to win this fairly quickly. It's not going to be very difficult. And it's, yeah, okay. So he has to go... He goes there. And I go rook f5, which is the logical move to smash the diagonal open. And I suppose there's nothing really to say, is there? He has to go... If rook f8, I can just go bishop takes rook and queen h7 check. So he has to play d4 to close the diagonal. Now I have to notice now that if rook takes rook, queen takes rook, bishop takes pawn, queen takes bishop check, it's I who resign. Because knight takes bishop c4 check would win for me. But I can't do that, but I can go bishop takes pawn first. Must take, check, rook to there. I can't go rook takes rook, of course, because of knight takes bishop with check, which is a shame. Knight, rook to there, rook to there, queen g5, queen takes queen, knight f3 check, rook takes knight, so that doesn't help. Takes, queen h7 check, king f6, bishop b6, knight e6. And the engine wants to go queen takes b7. I think I'd go queen e4 here. I mean, it would have done in the circumstances, because after queen e4 it may well be a draw, but white has absolutely zero losing chances. Whereas if you start playing queen b7 and queen c6, then okay, you should be winning after king e5 or something. But he does have an e-pawn. And if it went wrong, he would feel unbelievably stupid. Anyway. So that was that game. So I hope you've enjoyed that game. And you've enjoyed all of this. And we've done it without interruptions, which is wonderful. It's been much, much more together. And my next column will be on January the 7th, 2024. So I wish everybody who's watched this, who read the column, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I'll see you in 3 weeks' time. Just check I am recording, otherwise scream. I am recording. And then when I do this,